What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about what once was a really hot topic in the home arcade community, specifically the Arcade1up community, and that was the supposed list, the leaked list of products that were going to be coming out this year in 2024. So this was all the buzz in the latter part of 2023. Is this list real? What are the games on it? Are they coming out? Well, let's just go ahead and take a look at it right now. What you're looking at right here is a graphic that I put together based on that list, and then this graphic got circulated all over different channels. Everybody had a lot of fun with it, talking about what games they would like to see. Is it even possible? A lot of people thought this was completely just BS and was never going to come out. And if you look at this list, this is not really a list of games that you would think that are just absolutely guaranteed to sell. Not in the slightest. So let's go over the list real quick before we get too far into it, and let's discuss quickly, just briefly, go over this list again. Now, we had Smash TV and Robotron. Now, that was something that was kind of teased by the interview with Eugene Jarvis that Arcade1up did, so that was probably one of the most likely, if not the most likely. Cowabunga Collection was definitely a stretch. That was more of a collaboration or a collection of old TMNT games from back in the day on various consoles. Doesn't really have a big place on arcades, but it was going to be something that was going to be, it was going to include a few arcade games. So why not? This got much more validity once we saw the Atari 50th come out. Track and Field, long rumored, long shot. No one ever really saw. I don't think we really saw a legitimate prototype. So I don't know how far along that got. Star Wars XL is probably the most likely, or was the most likely at the time. AVP Big Blue, that was something that was near and dear to my heart. We saw an image, but that never really came to fruition. But that was somewhat of a confirmation that the list was real, but not necessarily. And if you look on down the list, some of them are, easy. You think slam dunk. Some of them are not. Some of them are really, really exciting. But one of them that I think was probably most likely the biggest long shot, and that was 720. Now, every one of the games on this list had a cabinet that was pretty much, it was a standard cabinet, right? 2-player, single player, a light gun game, but for the most part, these games are just standard. And you can definitely see them happening. In fact, most of these games had come to market through Arcade1up in one form or the other. Even AVP being a different game, the Big Blue form factor was established. Everything else, for the most part, you got some Excel versions of standard 3/4-inch games, so nothing really crazy. But 720 was always the one that where people were just like, especially me, or including me, I was like, how would you do it? How in the world would you do it? And the answer is like this. That's right. I have an actual image of the actual prototype of 720. Yeah, this is definitely... okay, this is actually really pretty cool and not insane when you consider some of the other prototypes that we've seen out there. Some of those long shot games that really were never going to happen. But for the most part, the cabinet shape is there. Now, you don't have some of the waviness of the original. That's just going to be kind of something that you sort of have to go with as far as, okay, the Arcade1up's version of this cabinet is not going to include some of those outlandish features. But what's really cool is the way that they've made this sort of pod, the monitor pod, the pod on top, and then the speakers themselves on top, and retaining a lot of the graphics that made this thing sort of stand out. And of course, the the thing that is really interesting is the trackball joystick. Like, how are they going to pull that off? And there's a lot of buttons on here. What was going to be included with this cabinet? I mean, you've got a ton of face buttons. You're looking at, 5 buttons on the left, 5 buttons on the right. So is this going to include, like, Mortal Kombat? I mean, who knows? It's kind of crazy, especially when you consider, like, this X pattern that they have. Was Mortal Kombat going to be on? I have no idea what would go on this, but it's kind of wild to think. Now, maybe this, obviously being a prototype, you wouldn't have maybe all these buttons on the final version. But this is pretty interesting, and this is definitely, like I said, this is the long shot cab. This is the cabinet that I didn't really think could possibly be made. And like you, I needed to see this thing in the flesh. And here you go. And this really proves that, I mean, if you look at this, this isn't a crazy rough-looking cabinet. This is one of those cabinets that I believe probably went to retailers. People probably saw this. This looks to be a fairly finished version. I mean, they have all the major graphics are in place. Some of the Arcade1up branding is in here, which is one thing. If you zoom into the marquee, it's only 720, which is cool. But I believe the final version, you know, if you're looking at the bezel and it's all black, it probably would have had some Arcade1up right there on the bezel. And of course, the coin doors would have probably had Arcade1up on the, you know, on the actual coin door itself. Of course, this is the black versions before the deluxe cabinets. So the deluxe cabinets had that chrome Arcade1up, so we maybe would have seen that. Also, to take note, this is a deluxe cabinet. There is no riser on this bad boy, which is pretty interesting. It kind of pulls off the look for me, not 100%. Obviously, you're missing some of that swoopiness of the base, but I mean, to go full, you know, to go full deluxe on this, you know, and I'm not sure when exactly. This must have been this prototype must have been out and about in 2023, so we were into the deluxe form factor for sure. But it's surprisingly cool. It's just a damn shame, guys, that we didn't get to see this. This is absolutely, this is sick, and this is unique, and this is something that, depending on, I guess, the games were on it, depending on the price point, you know, I don't know. I know it may have been a hard sell, but it's what I'm being told. This was absolutely approved. This was going to happen. Now, what happened? What was the nail in the coffin that finally killed it all? Well, I don't know if we're ever going to really know. I know that there's a lot of rumblings behind the scenes about how maybe this was about the time that, you know, unfortunately Scott and John were let go from the company, and when they left, some of their ideas left. A lot of that creativity that was Arcade1up is exemplified in this image right here. Something outlandish and crazy that they were believing in enough to go ahead and make a prototype and show it off and try to shop it around and get retailers to buy in on this image right here. And, you know, that must have been a hard sell. But before I'm being told, this was approved. And if nothing else, I think this fully legitimizes the list as far as not only just concepts, but you know ideas, but cabinets that were actually built and plans that were made. And I mean, who knows? I would love to see if maybe there was even like a manual. You know, was there a final draft of all the parts that were going to go into this thing? Was there a final games list, which would have been really cool? And it really makes you wonder about these buttons here, that configuration, that control panel. What were they trying to do there? Who knows? Could it have been some kind of a midway cabinet? Could we had Mortal Kombat? I don't know, but it's definitely cool, and it's something that, you know, it's bittersweet, because that tells me right there they were definitely going for some wild stuff. And if we go back to the list, it kind of legitimizes everything else. I mean, if they're going to go that far and take 720 that far, you know everything else was in full development. I mean, I just think that was the biggest stretch. And when you look at everything else seems tame, seems pale in comparison to what 720 was. Now, what do you think about this image of 720? Do you like it? Do you hate it? If they tried to get if they wanted to charge $5.99 for this, would you have bought this? What about the games list? What if it was a single game cab? Is it even possible for them to do that this far into the life of Arcade1up? But anyway, let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see all of you next time.